When writing quadratic functions, we really have three options because there are three ways we can write a quadratic equation. We can write them in vertex form, intercept form, or factored form, and standard form are our options. In order to write something in vertex form, we need to know the vertex, and we need to know any other point other than the vertex. To write something in intercept or factored form, we need to know what the intercepts are, and then we need any other point other than the intercepts. And then if we are going to write something in standard form, then we need to have at least 3 points that are on the parabola. Let's start with vertex form. We use vertex form if we know the vertex. So in this example, we can see that the vertex is 1, -2. But we also need any other point on that parabola, and 1 is kindly labeled for us, 3, 2. So vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where the h and the k, that's your vertex. So our h in this case is 1 and our k is -2. So when we're plugging in the vertex, we have x minus 1 squared plus -2, or just -2. But here's why we need that other point. We need to figure out what our a is. And to figure out what this a is, we need to plug in something for x and y so that we can solve for a. So we need a point, coordinates x and y, to plug in so that we can solve for a. When we solve for a, let's make sure we're using order of operations correctly. 3 minus 1 is 2, squared is 4. So we have a times 4, or 4a. And then continuing to solve for a, we add 2 to both sides. And then divide by the 4 to get a equals 1. So now we know what a is. We know what the vertex is that was given to us originally. Now we can go back and put that in vertex form because those are the only things we need for vertex form. I don't really need that 1 in front for the a, but it doesn't hurt anything to have it there. So here's another example where we don't have the picture, but it gives us the vertex, which means we're going to be using vertex form. We also need another point. That's going to help us find our a later on. I'm going to start by writing everything I know into vertex form. So my vertex is 4, -5. So that would look like that. And then I'm going to plug in my x and y so that we're able to solve for a. So when x is 2, y is -1, we plug those in because that's a point that's on the parabola, and then we solve for a. So 2 minus 4 is -2, squared is 4, so I have a times 4, or 4a again. And then continuing to solve for a, we get a equals 1 again. So I write my final equation, y equals 1 times x minus 4 squared minus 5. For this parabola, the vertex isn't very obvious. We'd have to estimate a little bit. So instead of using vertex form, we're going to use intercept form because we are given the intercepts. Our intercepts are -1 and 4. And then for intercept form, we also need another point other than the intercepts. And in this case, it gives us the point 3, 2. So if you recall vertex form, this is intercept or factored form. Looks like this. We have y equals a again, times x minus p, where p is one intercept, times x minus q, where q is the other intercept. So when we plug in our intercepts, that looks like y equals a times x plus 1 times x minus 4. Those are my factors based off of the intercepts given. Just like with vertex form, we're going to plug in that extra point so that we can solve for a. So we know when x is 3, y is 2. So we're going to plug in 3 for the x's and 2 for the y so that we can solve for a. So 2 equals a times 4 times negative 1, or negative 4a. When I divide both sides by negative 4, I get 2 over negative 4, or negative 1/2. So our a is negative 1/2. Then when I write my final answer, my a is negative 1/2, which makes sense that our a is negative because our parabola is open down. And then my two factors are x plus 1 and x minus 4 because my intercepts were negative 1 and positive 4. So here's another example where it gives us the x-intercepts are negative 2 and 5. So we're going to use intercept or factored form. The point is 6, 2. So writing our intercepts in, we have y equals a times x plus 2 times x minus 5. Those are the factors based off of those x-intercepts or solutions. And to find a, we need to plug in the coordinate given. So when x is 6, y is 2. Which means 2 is 8, or sorry, a times 8 times 1, or 8a. When I divide both sides by 8, I get that a is 1/4. So our final answer in factored form, our a is 1/4, and our factors are x plus 2 and x minus 5. When we don't have the vertex or the intercepts, we need to use standard form. We can't write it in vertex form without the vertex. We can't write it in intercept form unless we have both intercepts. So when you don't have those things, you have to use standard form. And to write an equation in standard form, you need to have at least 3 points. So to get our 3 points, or we have our 3 points, when we have our 3 points, we are going to plug those into standard form. I'm going to write standard form over here. Remember, standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. That's standard form. The reason we need 3 points is we're going to be looking for 3 variables, a, b, and c. And if we're looking for 3 variables, we need 3 equations to find those 3 variables. So for my first equation, I'm going to plug in negative 1 for x and 0 for y. So when I do that, I have 0 equals a times negative 1 squared plus b times negative 1 plus c. I'm just plugging in 0 for y and negative 1 for x. And then I'm going to simplify this. So I have 0 equals negative 1 squared is 1. I'm going to write that as 1a. Negative 1 times b is negative 1b. And then we just have 1c. I'll go ahead and put a 1 there. All right, now for my second equation, I'm going to use the second point. This time, my y is negative 2. My x is 1. So when I simplify this a little bit, I have 1a plus 1b plus 1c equals negative 2. And then for my third equation, I'm going to use this third point. So negative 15 equals a times 2 squared plus b times 2 plus c, or again rewriting that. I have 4a plus 2b plus c. I'm going to erase a couple of these just so we can see a little bit more clearly the equations we're working with. All right, so here are our three equations. When we have three equations and we're looking for three variables, basically we're going to be solving a system of three equations to find A, B, and C. So we're going to ask ourselves what variable is going to be the easiest to eliminate first. And I look at the C's and I see a 1, 1, and 1. I'm going to eliminate the C's. In this case, any variable, not so bad. But I'm going to eliminate the C's. So I'm going to put equation 1 and 2 together first. And I'm going to multiply equation 1. I'm going to multiply everything by a negative 1. And so equation 2, I'm not doing anything to. And now my C's eliminate. I have a negative 1C and a positive 1C. And I'm going to add up what's left. Oh, my A's cancel out too. That's convenient. And so actually I already know what B is. B is negative 1. We have our first variable. I'm going to keep going as if we didn't know that. So we've got one variable by putting equations 1 and 2 together. Now I'm going to put equations 1 and 3 together. And I'm going to use my altered equation 1 again. So where I multiplied everything by a negative 1 already. And with equation 3, I'm not going to mess with it at all. So that the positive 1C of equation 3 will cancel out with my negative 1C of equation 1 after I had multiplied everything by negative 1. So when I add up what's left, I have 3a plus 3b equals negative 15. And I know what b is, so my next step is going to be to substitute the b I know in here to solve for a. And when I do that, I get a equals negative 4. So now I know A and B. I just need to figure out C. I'm going to plug those into equation 2. So equation 2 says negative 2 equals 1 times A plus 1 times B plus 1 times C. And I find that C equals 3. Now I have all three variables. So now that I have found A, B, and C, I'm going to go back to the original problem. We were going to write this in standard form. Now I know my A is negative 4, my B is negative 1, and my C is 3. So just a quick recap on what we did here. We did not know the vertex. We did not know both intercepts. So we could not use vertex form or factored form. Instead, we needed to use standard form. And to write an equation in standard form, we have to find A, B, and C. Because we have three variables we're looking for, we need to set up three equations. So to set up our three equations, we used the 3 points given, one at a time. We simplified the equations, and then we solved a system of equations for variables A, B, and C. Once you have your three variables, plug that back into standard form. All of those points, when you plug them in, should work because they were all on our parabola.